Oh, it's another day here at the Comeback Team Studios, and this is your host, Bek Lover, and you're watching another episode of the Interesting Times podcast right here on the Bek Lover Podcast, where I gather all the interesting news, all the headlines, everything that you should know about this crazy world that we live in. So make sure you stay tuned, stay subscribed, and I'm going to go over all the interesting things that you should know about the world that we live in. And I'm going to start right now today with talking about a new video that has surfaced of the school shooter and his father a year before that massacre took place. Interesting times indeed, my friends. Body cam footage shows dad of Colt Gray telling cops he'd purge the house of guns if the teen made threats. This is reported by many major news outlets today. I'm using the New York Post for this. Body cam footage shows dad of Colt Gray telling cops he'd purge the house of guns if the teen made threats. It is amazing to me that the police went to this house. They heard rumors. They could tell that the kid was maybe making threats about shooting up a school. Some people want to blame law enforcement. I don't think it's their fault because it's hard to prove it one way or the other. But I do blame the father 100%. Your son was accused of doing this, so what do? You go buy your son a rifle. Your son is suspected of talking about shooting up a school, and what does the father do of this guy? He goes and buys him a rifle. He should be thrown in prison for life and no possible release ever. The last thing you do is go buy your child, a 17-year-old, an assault rifle or a gun when they may have been accused by their peers of talking about shooting up a school. I find this to be shocking, actually. And that father should have the full extent of the law thrown at him because a lot of families and people were affected by this, and he goes and buys the guy a gun.
Oh, real quick. So we got a tip from the FBI saying that somebody from your old address over there in Traditions had made a threat to shoot up a school.
For real?
Yes, sir.
What? Tell me what.
You have any kids or anything living here?
Colt Gray.
Colt?
Yeah, Colt. He's my oldest son.
How old is he?
He's 13.
Do you have weapons in the house?
I do.
Are they accessible to him?
They are. I mean, there's nothing loaded, but they are down. We do a lot of shooting. We do a lot of deer hunting. He shot his first deer this year.
Did it? Okay.
You know, so like I'm pretty much in shock, to be honest with you.
Well,
I'm a little pissed off, to be even really honest with you. I don't know anything about him saying like that, and I'm gonna be mad as hell if he did. And then all the guns will go away, and they won't be accessible to him. You know, I'm trying to be honest with you. I'm trying to teach him about firearms and safety and how whatever or wherever this is coming from is no joke.
No.
Like, it's no joke.
But we wouldn't be here if it was.
No, I know, and I'm telling you right now, we talk about it quite a bit.
Okay.
All the school shootings, things that happen.
Yeah,
all
scary.
Hey, are you getting picked on at school? He is. He's getting picked on at school. They're good dudes. Just they're told.
Hey, Colt, what's going on, bud? So did your dad kind of explain everything to you?
Said something about
Shooting up a school.
Did you say something about school shooting?
Never. I just told him, I don't know what. Maybe they misheard somebody else. I would never say I was threatening.
You never ever said.
No, I swear.
I'd hate to. You know, my boss was even like, I don't know how old this information is, and if you want to wait till Monday to follow up, I was like, nah, I'd rather do it now because.
So would we.
Because God forbid something happened and I didn't do my job, I'd feel pretty bad about that. Take it at your word, and I hope you're being honest with me. I'm not saying you're lying, but it's
a serious thing.
It's not unusual for people to lie to police. If you look me in the eye and you tell me that's what you're telling me, I got no choice but to take it at your word right now. Okay?
Yes, sir.
But like I was telling your dad, if we find out otherwise, then it's a different story. Okay?
It's a really different story. Okay.
It's just crazy to me. It really is. Like, the fact that these concerns were raised and law enforcement was there, maybe there should have been some type of psychological analysis. I know of people who brought certain things to school that they shouldn't have brought, and then the state jumped in and said, we got to do a full assessment of their mental health, make sure that they're not violent. It seems like there was no follow-up here. But what's crazy to me is that the father said, I'm going to make sure he has no access to any weapons. From what I'm understanding, he ended up buying him a rifle after that. The father of Georgia school shooting suspect, Colt Gray, assured officers he had repeatedly spoken to his son about school shootings and pledged to remove all guns from the home if accusations the teen made, violent threats online, were true, new police body cam video shows. The footage released Monday shows 2 Jackson County Sheriff's Office deputies questioning Colt, who was just 13, and his dad, Colin Gray, in May 2023 after receiving a tip from the FBI about online threats to carry out a school shooting a year before he allegedly gunned down 4 at Appalachee High School. I'm going to be mad as hell if he did, and all the guns will go away, and they won't even be accessible to him, the ticked-off father tells the officers after admitting there were unsecured firearms in the house. For real, the surprised father replies, to which officers tell him his name is connected to the address. Do you have any kids living with you or anything? The officer asked Colin, who's now wearing shorts and holding an energy drink. Yeah, Colt Gray, Colin replies. He's my oldest. The officer then asks the father if the son plays a lot of video games. Yeah, he does, like all the time, Colin shares. The investigators then ask if Colt is home and if there are any weapons in the house that are accessible to him. They are. I mean, there's nothing loaded, but they are. We do a lot of shooting. We do a lot of deer hunting. He shot his first deer this year. So that's crazy. That's crazy. Unreal that there was even this type of thought, and this father gave his troubled son an AR-15 for Christmas, the weapon that Colt ended up using in last week's slaughter. Absolutely got to throw the book at this guy. The fact that law enforcement showed up to the house, said they had concerns your son might do this or talked about doing this, whether it's real or not, the last thing I would have done as a parent, and I had 3 boys of my own, is go and give them a weapon. I want to make sure that they're really okay, you know? And I think what law enforcement could have done differently is they should have screened him for mental health issues and maybe observed a little bit more. But we heard some things in common here. One, the kid was being bullied. I'm not justifying his actions, but I remember as a child being young and how cruel kids could be to each other and the type of basically mental and verbal abuse that children, and physical abuse, that they get from their peers. And you have things that are done to freshmen, like Freshman Friday would be the first Friday of the new school year where all the new freshmen come into high school, and they would round them up and beat them up and humiliate them. And I remember the girls would do it to the girls and make them put all kinds of weird makeup on their face and literally dehumanize them. I witnessed this with my own eyes as a student in high school, and I did my best to fight against it. I was known as the guy that would stick up for kids being harassed, because I was a big guy and I didn't care and I got along with everybody. But there's a lot of moving pieces here. It's not just that the father got him a weapon. It's like, what put this kid into that mental state? Broken home, bullied at school, maybe playing too many first-person shooter video games, accused of thinking like this, and then given a weapon? This is crazy. So this is just, to me, is just shocking. And they should throw the father of Colin Gray in jail forever. Another article by the New York Post. Unauthorized satellite dish on warship lands Navy Chief Grisel Marrero in hot water with demotion. A U.S. Navy official was relieved of her duties and demoted after having an unauthorized Starlink high-performance satellite dish installed on a warship and lying about it to her commanding officer. She should be demoted for that. Grisel Marrero, a commanding senior chief of the littoral combat ship USS Manchester, was demoted in either August or September 2023. Information on her dismissal and the investigation that led to it were only released this week to the Navy Times. There's a shot of her, and there's a picture of the ship I guess she thought it was a yacht. She's like, we're going to be out to sea, and we're going to make sure we have internet, and we can play video games, and we can play Xbox Live, and we can FaceTime our lovers, or maybe go on OF. Marrero reportedly wanted the dish so she and other enlisted officers could better access social media, online content, and sports scores. Navy investigators learned Marrero lied to her superior officer about the dish, which she nicknamed Stinky when asked about it. She also disguised the network by renaming it as a printer. So she named this satellite dish Stinky. Well, maybe the images in the videos that were coming through were very stinky and naughty. I'm pretty sure that they went on a couple of those alternate websites. You know, it gets real lonely out at sea. I'm sure they spanked the monkey a few times, courtesy of Starlink, Elon Musk. But I guess what she forgot to remember, or she chose to willingly neglect and lie about, is that maybe an enemy could have used that Starlink device that she attached to the U.S. taxpayers' boat. It ain't a private yacht, exposing their locations and putting them all at risk of danger. Naval officers have restricted internet access while at sea in order to maintain bandwidth for military operations and to guard against cybersecurity breaches. Marrero worked as the information systems technician aboard the Manchester. The dish cost $2,800 and was fitted to the warship in April 2023. So I hope it was worth it. Over 140 Ukrainian drones target multiple Russian regions, including Moscow, authorities say. Here's images of drones for the first time striking into the heart of Moscow. This brings the war to a whole nother level and brings it onto the home turf of the Russian people, who are far from the violence and the danger. So this is definitely an escalation on behalf of the Ukrainians returning fire. Ukraine pummeled Moscow and multiple other Russian regions with more than 140 drones overnight, killing at least one and destroying dozens of homes in one of the biggest attacks on Russian soil since the war started raging, officials said Tuesday. Russia said it had destroyed at least 20 Ukrainian drones as they swarmed over Moscow and 124 more over 8 other regions in huge escalation of the nearly 3-year war. A 46-year-old woman was killed and 3 others injured in the town of Ramanskoye, just outside the Russian capital, when drones struck 2 residential buildings and sparked fires, Moscow Regional Governor Andrei Vordobov said. The attack also caused 3 of Moscow's 4 airports to shut down for well over 6 hours, resulting in nearly 50 flights to be diverted, according to Russia's Civil Aviation Authority. There is no way that the nighttime strikes on residential neighborhoods can be associated with military action. The Kiev regime continues to demonstrate its nature. They are our enemies, and we must continue the special military operation to protect ourselves from such actions. Ukraine, meanwhile, said its air force had shot down 38 out of 46 Russia-launched drones during an overnight attack. There was no immediate comment from Kiev, though. Here's an image of the damage. And remember, you can watch this show on YouTube, Rumble, or Spotify. This is definitely an escalation. And unfortunately, civilians are always paying the price, man, in these wars. Innocent people who don't want war have to pay the price. Tehran's chilling warning after Israeli attack on Iranian base in Syria kills 18. The time has come. Hindustan Times reports Iran reacted to a deadly attack in Syria on September 9th, allegedly carried out by the Israeli army. Iranian foreign minister spokesperson accused Israel of carrying out a criminal attack. The Iranian ministry also took a veiled dig at Israel's Western backers. At least 18 people were reportedly killed and 43 injured in Syria. Kim Jong-un vows to ready nuclear force for combat with the U.S. This is on DutchAvella.com, DW.com. Northern Korean leader Kim Jong-un said that the country will exponentially increase its nuclear arsenal to be combat ready against the U.S. and its allies. Kim said on Monday, after the nation must prepare its nuclear capability and its readiness to use it properly at any given time in ensuring the security rights of the state. He added that a strong military force was necessary to counter threats posed by the U.S. and its followers. The United Nations Command in South Korea While Kim has made similar threats in the past, experts believe that he is likely to perform provocative weapons tests ahead of the U.S. presidential election in November. Moreover, he has been protesting a new defense guideline between the U.S. and South Korea meant to integrate American nuclear weapons with South Korea's conventional ones to counter threats from the North. Kim blamed his growing weapons arsenal on these developments on Tuesday. The North faces a grave threat because of the reckless expansion of U.S.-led regional military bloc that is now developing into a nuclear-based one. South Korea is set to hold a defense meeting with the members of the UN. See on Tuesday the multinational military force that is led by commander of the U.S. military station in South Korea. So, some more good news for you. Dozens of casualties and more feared buried in Israeli airstrike on Gaza humanitarian zone targeting Hamas militants. An overnight Israeli airstrike on an area that Israel itself had designated as a humanitarian zone for displaced people in southern Gaza killed and injured dozens of Palestinians, according to local officials in the besieged enclave. Israel said the operation targeted Hamas fighters there. I don't care if Hamas is there. Sorry. They are armed militants, and if they are seeking refuge in places that you are classifying as safe, that is not the fault of the people that you told they could go there and be safe. These are people in a miles-long aquarium that you have placed them into as you bombard them from land, air, and sea. And if you tell them this place is safe, they don't have a say or a control over what these militants do. So if you see that there's civilians there, the last thing you should do is drop a fucking bomb on them. It's just unexcusable by now. 40,000 people dead, mostly civilians. Okay? Mostly children, half of them children. You can't tell them, hey, go over here, it's safe, and then bomb them. I don't give a fuck if the whole Hamas hides there. Because if I'm in a war, and war is chaos and unorder and insane, and I don't know where to go, and my enemy's telling me if you go here, I'll be safe, that's where I'm going to go. And then you drop bombs on that place. You're the one that's wrong. You're the one that has the firepower. You're wrong. You can't keep justifying these killings. Oh, there's one Hamas guy there, blow up 500 people. It's unethical. It's immoral. It's wrong. That doesn't make me anti-anything. It's just wrong. It's wrong when Ukraine sends a drone to kill 2 people in their apartment. It's wrong when Russia blows up a residential building in Kiev. I know there's a God. And I know one day you're all going to answer. All you leaders in your fancy suits, eating your nice meals, flying on private jets, riding around in bulletproof cars, who have started all these wars all over the world, you will answer one day. You might get away with it in this world, but I know you won't get away with it one day. I know there's a God. There will be a God for my family that I lost in that war. And for all the unspoken and for all the unnames that have been lost since the start of time, there will be a day that you pay a price. I guarantee you. Those of you that have lost your family in conflict, those of you that have family taken from you unjustly, whether in a war or just in everyday life, I promise you there will be a day of justice. There will be a day of redemption. There will be a day of judgment. I promise you. Because evil like this can't exist without a greater good somewhere in this universe. I promise you that day will come. In this life or the next. The UN chief calls the death and destruction in Gaza the worst he's seen, Associated Press reports. The UN chief said Monday that the United Nations has offered to monitor any ceasefire in Gaza and demanded an end to the worst death and destruction he has seen in more than 7-year tenure. Secretary General Antonio Guterres said in an interview with the AP that it's unrealistic to think the UN could play a role in Gaza's future, either by administering the territory or providing a peacekeeping force, because Israel is unlikely to accept a UN role. Of course, we'll be ready to do whatever the international community asks for us. Well, the international community is asking for you to somehow figure a way to end this conflict immediately, because too many innocent people are losing their lives. The war has caused vast destruction, displaced around 90% of the population of 2.3 million people. A ceasefire cannot and will not take place so long as our remaining hostages taken from us on October 7 remain in captivity. This is what the Israelis are saying. I urge the UN Security Council to urgently convene and condemn Hamas in the strongest possible terms and demand the release of all 101 hostages in Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu his government has accused the UN of being anti-Israel and have been highly critical of UN humanitarian operations in Gaza. Thus another reason why the United Nations is a fucking joke. And even though the whole world meets there, they're going to come here in a couple of weeks and create chaos in Manhattan with all their security details and bulletproof vehicles, and New York becomes a fucking parking lot because of them. They really accomplished nothing in that building except on how to control people's lives. They don't do anything to stop these wars. They didn't do anything to stop the war against my family. It took forever. And Bosnia and Rwanda and Sudan and so far and so forth. And people starving in Yemen. So, I don't know. They're a waste. More waste. These politicians, when they should be busy working, they're too busy getting their fellatio done to them. Yeah, that's right, fellatio. I don't even know how you say the female, whatever. Was it fellatio? I don't even know, man. She got her box ate out, okay? She had her box eaten out by her aide. That's what the fucking story's about. State senator forced chief of staff to perform sexual acrobatics that left him with back and hip injuries. A California state senator forced a former staffer to do sexual favors for her while she was his boss as a part of a quid pro quo relationship that left him riddled with back and hip injuries. I mean, I've heard of eating pussy, but something like this, I mean, what could he possibly have been doing? It's hard enough to eat that type of thing without doing acrobats. Like, really? Senator Marie Alvarado Gil, former chief of staff, Chad Condit, slapped her with the lawsuit last week, alleging the lawmaker, a longtime Democrat who recently jumped ship to the Republican Party, pressured him into performing sex acts on her when they traveled for work. The married aide claims he relented and performed the acts on his boss over the years as a part of a sex-based quid pro quo relationship in order to protect his job, according to the suit filed in Sacramento Superior Court. Is it me or just the biggest lowlives in politics from California? Nancy Pelosi, hypocrite. Gavin Newsom, hypocrite. This woman, clearly a hypocrite if these allegations are true. On their final encounter, Condit alleges he suffered a debilitating back injury while having to twist and contour as he performed oral sex on the senator in a car, leaving him with 3 herniated discs and a collapsed hip. The staffer claims he started using his back injury as an excuse to reject Alvarado Gil's advances in August last year, but she allegedly retaliated and handed him a disciplinary letter with accusations of inappropriate behavior leveled against him. Condit alleges he was then fired in December after repeatedly making clear that the sexual advances were no longer welcome and that he was undergoing back surgery. This was a sex-based quid pro quo relationship of unwelcome advances and sexual behaviors coupled with punishment and flexing of power. Alvarado Gil is portrayed in the suit as an erratic and controlling boss who allegedly incited a sexually dominating and abusive authority of power. Condit, who is the son of former Congressman Gary Condit, Democrat of California, first started working for Alvarado Gil when she ran for her Senate seat as Democrat in 2022. He became her chief staff when she was elected. So, maybe if these politicians were busy working instead of doing disgusting shit like this, and maybe if they actually cared about you Californians, your state and your cities wouldn't be as horrible as they are. Like, when you're going to wake up in California, man. Like, wake up already. Like, you live in California. Like, when are you going to point at these people and say, you're destroying our state? There's homeless people everywhere because of you. People are leaving because of your taxation. It's too expensive to live. Like, when are you guys going to wake up in California? Like, really, when are you going to wake up? You have the most beautiful state in our country, and it's run like garbage. Speaking of other corrupt people from California, comedian escorted away after heckling Nancy Pelosi at book signing. What stock should I buy? Here's the video. Let's pull it up.
We do. Well, Nancy, listen. Last question. What stocks should I buy? Nancy, you're the greatest options trader of all time. I just want to know what stocks I should buy. But I just want to know, like, if income inequality is their biggest concern.
So many people have accused Nancy Pelosi of doing insider trading. This comedian Alex Strenger was definitely taking jabs at her own book signing at the Texas Tribune Festival in Austin. Strenger, who's seen wearing a mask and a Bernie Sanders baseball cap, approached the table where Pelosi was sitting and identified himself as Noah. I am a UTA candidate. I was listening. I wasn't able to get a book sold out, but I want to say how much I appreciate your fierce, staunch defending of democracy, Strenger told Pelosi, adding that if it really means so much, you know. And honestly, with all the disinformation on X, like, you know, the only chance like that we have is for Donald Trump to spend the rest of his life in prison, Strenger said. He added that imprisoning Trump was the only hope for democracy. We just have to win the election. Pelosi agreed, replying, "We do." Strenger then asked Pelosi, "What stock should I buy?" "Nancy, you're the greatest options trader of all time. I just want to know what stocks I should buy. I just want to know, like, what's your biggest concern?" So, the Democratic Congresswoman who represents San Francisco is married to Paul Pelosi, the founder of real estate firm and venture capitalist firm. Paul Pelosi's stock trading activity has raised eyebrows given the fact that his wife's positions as one of the most powerful legislators in the country gives her access to information that may influence market decisions. Paul Pelosi exercised call options in Microsoft just before the company was awarded a lucrative defense contract from the U.S. government. You think it's a coincidence? Do you think it's a coincidence that her husband executed these options and trades right before a major announcement of a government contract? Like, they are making themselves filthy rich at your expense. They run your state like shit. They told you to mask up, and they took theirs off while they were destroying your businesses. If you're in California and you're struggling, honestly, at this point, the fact that you guys don't protest and demand for their resignations, you deserve it all. Whatever's coming to you, you deserve. Just like I do here in New York. But the difference between me and you, I'm vocal about it. I don't care about Republican or Democrat. I do not give a fuck. I am tired of corrupt people who shit on us. Literally, they think we're fucking idiots. That they can come up and be like adored, like they're so like good people. Like, I love these people that are making their lives miserable anytime they make a public appearance. I love it. I love it. Fucking troll them back. That's all. Troll them the way they troll us. You can't keep your business open. You can't be anywhere together. You can't even bury your own family. You got to keep a mask on. Meanwhile, they're at salons and restaurants like Gavin Newsom, who lied about it. Did you guys forget? He lied about it, ravaged your economy, destroyed your state, and then they laugh in your fucking face. I give a salute to this man, to this comedian. Troll them the fuck back wherever you see them. Just like last week's episode when they got de Blasio on the street again. Tonight is the much anticipated presidential debate between Trump and Kamala. It's going to be very interesting. I can't wait to watch this thing. It's going to be no holds barred. I promise you that much. This is probably the most anticipated presidential debate in the history of America. So don't forget tonight to tune in. The first debate on Tuesday at Philadelphia's National Constitution Center is a showdown that could define the rest of the presidential campaign. The debate begins at 9 p.m. on ABC News. If you're out there and you're physically active with a lot of women, you're probably wearing protection. Trojan condoms contains toxic forever chemicals linked to cancer. Lawsuit. A new lawsuit on Monday claims that Trojan condoms are not safe because they contain toxic forever chemicals which have been linked to cancer. In a proposed class action filed Manhattan federal court, the plaintiff Matthew Goodman said Church & Dwight's products, advertisers as America's #1 condom, are unfit for their intended purpose because they contain per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAs. Goodman said independent lab testing of the Trojan ultra-thin condoms that he bought at a Manhattan pharmacy found the presence of organic fluorine, which is practically non-existent outside in its use in man-made PFA chemicals. Based on the label, he reasonably believed the product was safe for use on his genitalia. Had the defendant disclosed on the label that the product contained PFA chemicals and the harm that can result from the contact with PFA chemicals, he would not have purchased the products, or at the very least would have only been willing to pay significantly less. The complaint seeks a $5 million in damages from Ewing, New Jersey-based Church & Dwight for purchasers of Trojan condoms nationwide. If you're wearing them, you might want to do some homework. You might lose your wee-wee. We all remember this man's voice from the movie Star Wars. Luke, I'm your father. The mystery of the Mandela effect. Did he say, no, I'm your father, or Luke are your father? Drop a comment. Did he actually say that, or do we all have collective amnesia? James Earl Jones, the voice of Darth Vader and Field of Dreams, has passed away at the age of 93. His voice was nothing less than iconic. He had an amazing voice, which made him a lot of money. I loved him in the movie Sandlot. I love that movie, that young boys playing baseball as one of them reaches the major leagues. And he was the next door neighbor that owned the big dog. I believe his name was Hercules, and he chases them. I love that movie, but we all know him as Luke, I'm your father. I'm your father. Rest in peace, James Earl Jones. This one, boring, skipping it. This is an interesting one. Wife of California inmate wins $5.6 million in settlement for strip search. Cristina Cardenas was strip searched and given drug and pregnancy tests, X-ray, and CT scans at a hospital, lawyers said. The wife of a California inmate will receive $5.6 million after being sexually violated during a strip search when she tried to visit her husband in prison, her attorney said Monday. After traveling 4 hours to see her husband at the facility on September 6, 2019, Cristina Cardenas was subject to a strip search by prison officials, drug and pregnancy tests, X-ray, and CT scans at a hospital, and another strip search by a male doctor who sexually violated her. My motivation in pursuing this lawsuit was to ensure that others do not have to go through what she went through, Cardenas said. Of the $5.6 million settlement, the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation will pay $3.6 million, and the rest will be paid by the defendants, which include 2 correctional officers, a doctor, and the Adventist Health Tehachapi Valley Hospital. Prison officials conducted their searches on the basis of a warrant which said a strip search could only be conducted if an X-ray found any foreign objects that could be contraband in Cardenas' body. Her attorney said, however, neither the X-ray or the CT scan found any evidence of such. She was also put in handcuffs in a humiliating perp walk while being taken to and from the hospital and denied water or use of bathroom during the majority of the search process. She was told she had to pay for the hospital services and later received invoices for a combined total of more than $5,000. Despite no contraband being found in any of her belongings or her body, Cardenas was denied her visit with her husband. One of the prison officials asked, "Why do you visit, Cristina? You don't have to visit. It's a choice, and this is a part of visiting," according to Cardenas. We believe the unknown officer's statements was a form of intimidation used to dismiss Cristina's right to visit her lawful husband during the course of his incarceration. Cardenas has also undergone a strip search during a previous visit to marry her husband and continued to experience difficulties during her visits to him, though not to the same extent as the September 6, 2019 incident. Her husband remains in custody today. I wonder how long he's going to be in jail. That would have been an interesting piece of information to put into the article. Do I have to tell you journalists how to do your jobs? In any event, that is wrong what they put her through, and I can only imagine how embarrassing and harmful that was. And I hope they get the full extent of the law. Criminal charges against them. Two charged with soliciting attacks on minorities, officials, and infrastructure on Telegram. 2 people who prosecutors say were motivated by white supremacist ideology have been arrested on charges that they used social media messaging app Telegram to encourage hate crimes and acts of violence against minorities. The defendants, identified as Dallas Humber and Matthew Allison, face 15 federal counts in the Eastern District of California, including charges that accuse them of soliciting hate crimes and the murder of federal officials, distributing bomb-making instructions, and conspiring to provide material support to terrorists. Humber, 34, of Elk Grove, California, and Allison, 37, of Boise, Idaho, were arrested Friday. Humber pleaded not guilty in a Sacramento courtroom Monday to the charges. Her attorney, Noah Oren, declined to comment on the case Monday after the arraignment. Today's action makes clear that the department will hold perpetrators accountable, including those who hide behind computer screens and seeking to carry out bias-motivated violence. A 24-minute documentary that the two had produced, White Terror, documented and praised some 105 acts of white supremacist violence between 1968 and 2021, according to the indictment. The risk and the danger they present is extremely serious. Their reach is as far as the internet because of the platform they've created. Telegram's founder, Pavel Durov, was detained by French authorities last month on charges of allowing the platform's use for criminal activity. Durov responded to the charges with the post last week, saying he couldn't have been targeted personally and by promising to help step up efforts to find criminality on the app. So basically, for those of you assholes that are out there that think you can do bad things and have serious conversations and these apps protect me, no, they don't. And I'm glad that it didn't if these people were up to no good. But as far as free speech and confidentiality, there is no such thing. If you are typing, emailing, phone call, okay, you are going to be surveilled. That's all this means. That's all. Australia plans minimum age limit for social media use. The Australian government, this is reported by FT.com, the Australian government plans to introduce an age limit on the use of social media this year amid concerns about the dangers of excessive screen use by young people, with politicians comparing the potential harm caused by screen addiction to the damage caused by cigarettes and alcohol. I gotta agree. Which will set an age limit between 13 and 16 could mean children can no longer access sites such as TikTok and Instagram. If implemented, it could be the first such initiatives globally. Anthony Albanese, that's probably because his origins are Albanian. Albanese is how Italians say Albanian. So if you think it's Albanese, you're wrong. You have Albanian origins, my friend. The Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, said on Tuesday that parents were worried sick about their children using social media and that the welfare of the country's teenagers was paramount. I agree to some extent. I don't believe in full control. The government should make that decision, but it's up to the parents, man. I get that parents are scared that social media can be terrifying, but banning kids from the last public square they have won't help. What problem are we trying to solve? And is legislating kids the way to do it? I don't think it should be banned, but there should be like stricter filters and censors, and they shouldn't be able to see any type of crazy images. They sure know how to flag fucking content when they don't agree with the message. So I'm pretty sure I've been seeing flips of X-rated images on Facebook on a video that looks like two animals, and then all of a sudden you see these flicks. Have you been noticing that? Have you been catching it? I've been seeing this happen more and more and more. It's very dangerous for our children. Little flicks of pornography being inserted in what seem like harmless videos. Have you been seeing this? Drop a comment. I'm curious. Man accused of setting on fire a Ugandan Olympic athlete dies of burns. A man accused of dousing gasoline on a Ugandan Olympic athlete, causing her death days later, has succumbed to burns sustained in the attack, according to the Kenyan hospital where he was treated. Dixon Demenya was admitted to the Mo Referral Hospital in the western Eldoret city for burns covering 30% of his body. Ndemya is alleged to have sustained the injuries after setting on fire Olympic athlete Rebecca Cheptegei, who died last Thursday with 80% burns on her body. That's absolutely horrific. The athlete's father, Joseph Tepte, told reporters last week that Ndemya, his daughter's former boyfriend, was stalking and threatening her, and the family had informed police. He said he wanted justice and lamented that the suspect was not being guarded at his hospital bed and expressed concern that he might escape. Cheptegei is expected to be buried at her home in Uganda on Saturday. And what a tragic end to this woman's life. Islamic scholar Tariq Ramadan guilty of rape, Swiss appeal court's finds. Judge overturns lower court acquittal and sentenced former Oxford professor to 3 years in jail. A Swiss appeal court has found the Islamic scholar Tariq Ramadan guilty of raping a woman in a Geneva hotel 15 years ago, overturning a lower acquittal. The court said it annuls the judgment and sentenced the former Oxford professor to 3 years in prison, 2 of them suspended. The verdict was slightly more lenient than the 3 years in prison, half suspended, requested by the prosecutor in the appeals case in May. The ruling dated 28th of August, but not made public until after it was reported by broadcaster RTS early on Tuesday, is likely to be the subject to an appeal at Switzerland's highest court. Ramadan, a charismatic yet controversial figure in European Islam, I've never heard of him, has always maintained his innocence. His accuser, a Muslim convert identified only as Bridget, had testified before the court that he subjected her to rape and other violent sex acts in a Geneva hotel room during the night of October 28th, 2008. The lawyer representing Bridget said she was raped repeatedly and subjected to torture and barbarism. Bridget was in her 40s at the time of the alleged assault. She filed a complaint 10 years later, telling the court she felt emboldened to come forward after similar complaints were filed against Ramadan in France. The appeals verdict overturns a lower court finding last year's acquitting Ramadan of rape and sexual coercion. So, I think there was a quote here, that I wanted to read about this article. Not sure, but that's why you should have followed the rules of Islam, because it can come back to bite you. You shouldn't be alone with women you're not married to in Islam, because maybe you didn't do anything and maybe she's setting you up. I don't know, and I'm not trying to defend them. But if he would have followed the rules of Islam, he wouldn't have had these allegations, because a Muslim man should not be alone with a woman that he's not married to. And guess what? It protects you. Yeah, you should have been meeting these women publicly then. There would be no way to say that he took me to a room or did anything. Maybe she went up there on her own. Who knows? But the point is, regardless, if he did it or didn't do it, because remember, the first was not guilty, now it's guilty. So is he guilty or not? I don't know. But he wouldn't be in this hot water. He definitely hung out with this woman in an un-Islamic environment, which led to the problems you're facing now. And if you're a scholar, not that I'm judging you, you should be held to a much higher standard than those that you're preaching to. And for me to not call out the hypocrisy, I would be a hypocrite. I can call out my own friends and family. Yeah, if a Muslim does something wrong, quote unquote Muslim, I will call it out. That's why I pulled this article up. A robot has begun a 2-week mission to retrieve melted fuel from the damaged Fukushima nuclear plant that was in Japan after the tsunami in 2011. And they're saying that it might take a year to even start doing this. But that catastrophe is far from over there. Okay, we're 13 years later. Russia launches largest naval drills of post-Soviet era alongside China and Sea of Japan. You don't see this anywhere. Russia launched its largest naval drills of post-Soviet era on Tuesday alongside Chinese warships, the latest sign of deepening military cooperation between the two global powers. The drills will continue until September 16th and will involve more than 400 warships. It looks like World War II gaming is what it looks like. Sorry, World War III preparation is what I meant. Russia and Chinese warships began joint drills. Okay? Who knows what's coming our way, folks? Brazil, wildfires rage and the Amazon River falls to a record low. This is reported by the AP. All right, this is the first time that the drought has covered all the way from the north to the country's southeast. All right, and you can see that the country is in serious trouble, and those are the lungs of the earth. So that's crazy. Ninja Turtles voice actor dead at 89. That's breaking news, but that's not what I wanted to report. What I wanted to report here on TMZ today was this article. Where is Puff Daddy? Where is Diddy? Where is Puff Daddy? He was hit with a $100 million default judgment in a sexual assault case. Diddy lawyers call accuser sexual predator. Diddy just had a $100 million levy against him. This man, Cardell Smith, is a convicted felon and sexual predator who has been sentenced to 14 counts of sexual assault and kidnapping over the last 26 years. His resume now includes committing a fraud on the court from prison. As Mr. Combs has never heard of him, let alone been served with any lawsuit, Mr. Combs looks forward to having this judgment swiftly dismissed. Diddy just took a huge L in a sexual assault lawsuit he blew off because a judge just slapped him with a $100 million default judgment. Derek Lee Cardello Smith, currently an inmate, claimed in his lawsuit Diddy drugged and sexually assaulted him at a party in Detroit back in '97. It is unclear if the statute of limitations has run, but that wasn't addressed by the judge. According to the lawsuit, the two were drinking and smoking weed at the party and got naked with a bunch of women. Cardello Smith says he was performing oral sex on women when he felt a male hand on his left buttock. He said it was Diddy's hand. A short time later, he said Diddy's offered him a drink, which he spiked and he passed out. Hours later, Cardello Smith claims he woke up and saw Diddy having sex with a woman, and Diddy allegedly said to him, I did this to you too. Cardell Smith sued for $100 million, but according to legal docs, it appears Diddy did not file an answer to the complaint. A hearing for default judgment was set for Monday, but no sign of Diddy, so the judge gave Smith what he wanted, $100 million. Diddy just lost $100 million because he did not file to a complaint made against him, that someone accused him of taking advantage of him physically. Diddy just lost $100 million. Why didn't Diddy show up to court? $100 million on the line leads me to believe that Diddy is definitely not in the United States of America, and he's scared if he comes back to America, he'll be put into jail for something else he's accused of. This is clear proof to me that Diddy is finished completely. He's never coming back. He's definitely not here. I don't think he's here. Okay? If he was here, he would have responded to the lawsuit. $100 million. He just lost on a default judgment by not answering a legal complaint made against him. Where is Diddy? Diddy, where are you? Are you ever coming back? Take that, take that, take that. More proof that he's in trouble. Diddy's list LA mansion for $61 million nearly 6 months after federal raid. Sean Diddy Combs placed his Holmby Hills mansion up for sale to the tune of $61.5 million. Combs, 54, purchased the massive property in 2014 for $39 million. Diddy established his primary residence in Miami years ago and always planned to sell his LA home once his daughters grew up. It has nothing to do with any civil litigation. Yeah, I'm sure it doesn't. Situated behind private gates, the 1.3 acres boasts lush landscaping with mature trees, formal gardens, yada, yada, yada. It was beautiful. We saw it during the raid. Okay, but where is Diddy, man? Where is Diddy? Where is Diddy? That is the question of the hour. In any event, these are the interesting stories. This is your boy Bek Lover, and I want to thank you for watching the Bek Lover Podcast, where I keep you in the know. I'll see you next time on the Bek Lover Podcast.